the mentee shortly. And yeah, the session is for you, right? We're taking a slice of your life and we want that to be meaningful for you. We want to solve some problems for you. That's what the session is geared to do. All right, so we're going to start with a bit of a check-in. And I'm hoping, Arshad, I'm going to bump you off the music. And I'm hoping I can share screen. Let's just see, because I want to share the Menti with you. Okay, beautiful. I think this is gonna do it. All right, so what I'm going to ask you to do, grab your cell phone, all right, and you're going to go to www.menti.com. It's going to ask you for a secret passcode to get into this Menti, and that passcode is 113154. And the first question we want to ask you is, how do you feel right now? And all emotions are welcome. There's nothing that we haven't seen. There's not a single emotion that scares us. All right, so someone's feeling relaxed. Okay, I can see it in your eyes. I'm seeing some fabulousness. All right, let them intrigued, energetic, excited. Oh, that looks like a really nice cocktail. Great, great, great cocktail of emotions.
You
Right,
talk
for
about
some of you,
cocktails, Chantel. I'm getting thirsty.
oh, I know, I know. I could do with a Tom Cruise shaking up something stirred and shaken on some chopped ice. Okay, amazing. We excited has the most votes, right? So that is the predominant feeling in the room. All right, now the next question I want to ask you, and let me see why my slides won't progress. Okay, great. So we want to talk about, your role as a CX professional, right? And these are the 6 competencies. So let me just very quickly go through them, and then I'm going to ask you to rate yourself, okay? In terms of how much experience you have versus like how much experience you have where not much or highly experienced, and how confident you feel in these competencies. So we're going to start with strategy, all right? CX strategy. The second one is client-centric culture. Third one, organizational adoption and accountability, which is really around effecting change in your organization. Then measurement, metrics, and ROI, the nice topic that the CFO keeps on beating you about. And then we've got experience design, improvement, and innovation, which is really your journey design. And then VOC is really your voice of the customer, insight and understanding. So we just want to get a sense here. How confident do you feel around these competencies? Because that's going to help us also guide the conversation. We want to give you the inside scoop, how to feel confident even when you're not confident. All right, good job. We've got 4 people answering this. And that's looking pretty damn fine. Good job, everyone. Fantastic job. So we see a slightly lower score there with measurements and metrics. All right, the statistics always scare people, right? The spreadsheets, the heaps of data always scares people, right? And we are looking quite strong on strategy, strong on culture, and then a runner up there is the voice of the customer. Okay, excellent. Good job. Good job. All right, so now I'm going to ask you just to guide the conversation a little bit. What is the biggest challenge in your role right now? The biggest challenge, the biggest pain in your ass. Like, that's the stuff that you lie awake about at night. Tell us your biggest challenge. We've come prepared, but we would not be client-centric if we just told you what we wanted to tell you, right? Excellent. And if you've just joined the session, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, fantastic. And there's some things coming through there, and my team will also watch the chat. So if you want to hop onto the menti.com, use the code 113154. I sound a little bit like a very mock salesperson. All right, great. So lack of support from the top, governance, data modeling, multi-journey framework design. Oh, I feel your pain. Motivate the investment in CX capabilities, and clients being able to articulate what they need and expect. Then we've got a meaty one there, support from the organization. CX might be customer centric, but other departments don't seem to collaborate. All right, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that. And let's see, my team, if you could watch, um, the chat. I am working on I've got a couple of big screens, but the one I've got with the chat on is fairly small. So my team, if you would not try and be um, very respectful, please just interrupt me if there is a question in the chat.
Yeah, no questions yet, but we'll keep an eye.
All
I think
right.
Tess is going to keep an eye.
All right.
Yeah, I've got an eye on the chat, and then I've also got an eye on LinkedIn, so we're covered.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. All right, so let us share with you the few challenges that we had prepared to unpack for you. And I thought I saw a comment there in the chat. What is a CX professional? All right. So I think customer experience is widely misunderstood and misused. All right. It can be used for a marketing role. It can be used for a call center role. But in the context of which we are discussing it today, it's really a customer experience professional that is driving transformation inside an organization. Now, that transformation might focus on skills building, it might focus on cultural change, it might focus on designing journeys. And some organizations have a bigger focus on certain things than others. So there isn't a one size fits all and the recipe is exactly the same, whichever organization that you're in. All right, so if you are in a environment where you're trying to improve client service, client interaction, this is really what we're talking about today. All right, so I'm going to share a presentation I've prepared for you. And let's see if we can, there we go. Fantastic. Just going to quickly reorganize my screen. All right, so some of the challenges that you might be facing that we've kind of chosen to start this conversation with is, first of all, the pressure to deliver quickly. The second one is growing your knowledge, your own knowledge and your skills and that of your team. And the third one is gathering a tribe, really getting the organization on your side. So I'm going to unpack these in a little bit more detail. So the pressure to deliver quickly, it's that old adage of how do you eat an elephant, right? You eat it one piece at a time. Often you are under pressure because you might have been given budget, very few resources, and there's this huge expectation that you are going to do more with less, that you are going to change the world, and often that expectation weighs quite heavily on people. So what I wanted to share with you, and I know this diagram is quite small, but what we can do, Tess, we've got the people's email addresses because they registered for this, and we will send you a copy of this. So really understanding the elephant, it's a little bit like looking at a 1,000-piece puzzle, right? And it's very difficult to build this puzzle if you don't have a blueprint, if you don't have a picture of what it should look like when it's done, right? And I'm going to talk just about the broad elements on this, and you can see there's a line in the middle, and that line separates the customer and the employee. Now, we cannot talk about being client-centric if we don't also consider the employee that's ultimately delivering that experience. So first of all, you need to understand the needs of the customer. You need to understand the needs of the employee. Then you need to understand this experience, the brand promise, and that's a mix of all of the marketing messages. It's a mix of what your executives promise to the shareholders and to the various stakeholders that are involved in the expectations around what the brand's going to deliver. And then you've got your employees, and they don't function in isolation. They're part of a team. You have leaders that are leading these teams. And then the lowest part of that is the business design, where you've got all of these components. And unless this ecosystem is in balance, and unless you consider these pieces of the ecosystem, it can be very difficult to deliver things quickly. Because some of you are working for organizations that are 30 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old. Some of you are working for organizations that are older than 100 years. Now, in 100 years, things have gotten really, really complex, right? And as soon as you work with an organization that's 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people, you got a lot of complexity and you've got a big ship to turn, right? So you want to look at these components, and if you design journeys, you want to pick them really, really carefully. Right. So I'm going to quickly talk to you about how you pick things so that you can illustrate that you are delivering and that your team's roles are crucial and that you are making a difference in the organization. So typically, you want to look for things that are high volume. And I'm going to give you an example shortly. You want to look for things that are quite painful to the organization. You want to look for journey moments and journey interactions that are highly emotional to the client. And then you want to pick things that have a great story. All right, we've got those characteristics. So let me give you an example of this. So one of the very first projects I did was in life insurance. Right now, life insurance is a little bit of an odd product because the promise delivers when you're no longer here. Right. So you're not actually here to witness the promise delivering, but your family is. Right. They go through your documents and they see, okay, there's some life insurance money here. Now, in that in that life insurance environment, a death claim is a really, really highly emotive moment, right? So that ticks that box. The pain for the organization is quite high because there's a lot of documents that need to be processed. And for the next of kin, that is a very painful process, right? Because they're dealing with all these documents and all these things that are rather unpleasant. Probably not the highest volume, right? But a death claim, if you can take something that's that negative and you can transform that into a moment where the next of kin feels loyalty towards your brand, that makes for a brilliant story. Right. So that's a pretty good moment to say when the promise is met, that's the highest emotional moment, quite high pain, and it makes for a good story. So let's take another example. If I'm looking for something that has volume, I'm probably going to look for an annual statement that gets sent out. So if I've got 2 million policyholders and my team, you can catch the people that come into the waiting room, please. So if I'm looking for a high volume, the annual statement that gets sent is a really, really good one. Now, those annual statements, most of the time, they don't make sense. Nobody reads them, but it's really important that you understand the intention of that is to inform your client of what they have with you. Right. So that one ticks the volume issue. And if I make a change to that, that is focused on delivering a better experience, I'm getting 2 million policyholders at the same time. Probably not high emotion, not high pain. Does it make for a good story if someone says, sure, I got this annual statement, and usually it's so boring, I don't open it, but this time it came with a video message from the CEO explaining something wonderful to me, right? It was educational. For the first time, I get X, Y, and Z that I never pay attention to. So you get the idea of what would be great things to pick as a portfolio of different projects where you're going to illustrate that you can make a change, you can make it fairly quickly, you are focused on delivery. Now, I've given you this prioritization matrix here, and the prioritization matrix, you will see that there is a high effort, low effort on the axis, and then there's low impact, high impact. So you definitely don't want to do things that's high effort and low impact, right? So you need to take the different initiatives through a thinking process of saying, all right, so if I do this, what is my expected benefit? And sometimes you have to make some assumptions, right? Sometimes you just don't have all of the answers. You're making some assumptions. You also don't want to do things that are low effort and low impact, right? Because then you're just wasting time. You want to really focus on the things that have high impact, and not just to say you want to do low effort things that have high impact. You might at times have to do low efforts, high impact things that require some effort, right? But you want to consider what effort that takes. And that's why I didn't color that block completely yellow to the top. All right, makes sense. Any questions? All right, so you want to pick carefully. Good story, high volume. You want to look at where the pain is. You want to look for where the emotion is high for the client. And then you want to take it through how much effort am I going to have to put in for the benefits that I'm getting. All right, so the next topic we've got is growing you and your team skills. All right, so the competencies that I believe that you really, really need as a CX professional or someone who's going to transform experience and relationships inside your company is storytelling. And what you want to do is you want to create stories that other people can tell on your behalf. So I really want you to imagine whatever initiative you're busy with happens around a campfire. And you telling, I remember my grandpa used to tell the most amazing stories, right? He told them more than once. I think some of the stories he must have told me like 50 times because I remember them like 40 years later, and I'm grateful for that. But I now tell my kids those stories. And I want you to think about how can you inspire other people in the organization to tell the stories on your behalf. And that might mean that you need really beautiful PowerPoint packs. People, if you take only one thing away from this, please do not tell your stories with ugly PowerPoints. All right? Use images that people can remember. Please do not kill people slowly with PowerPoint. All right? If you've got, Tina is laughing. If you've got, and Tina, these slides are not pretty, but I did them by hand and very quickly, right? But if you've got more than 5 points on a slide, all right, the slide police should actually hunt you down and put you through some pain. I'm seeing Masana's at least smiling at this. All right, so you want to create beautiful artifacts with 4 or 5 slides that someone can go, oh, please send me that slide back you just covered with us. I'd love to show my team. All right, so if you get that comment, you know you've done it right. You know you've simplified it, you've made it beautiful, you're telling a story that someone else wants to tell to their team on your behalf. Right. Now, this requires you to not be like egocentric. All right. You need to leave your ego a little bit at the door. Okay. You need to leave your territorialness at the door. And if someone wants to tell your story, let them tell it. Right. I even say to people, take my name off the slides, put your name on those slides and tell that story proudly. Because then I've got a lot of evangelists telling the story on my behalf. All right. The second thing is facilitation. Okay, Arshad, talk to us about facilitation. What do you see as good facilitation?
That's such an interesting question. Good facilitation requires someone to not give a group of people the answers. You really want to take people on a journey with you and help them find solutions so that they can own. So I think in a sense, where it comes to topics around innovation or ideation, we all have this natural inclination to say, I know what's going to work best. But if we do that, we kind of not really facilitating. We're more pretty much, telling people what to do. But facilitation as an artistry is taking people on a journey of discovery. And the difference between, a meeting and a workshop is that meeting is just you talking. So you don't really want it. You don't need a facilitator in a meeting, or you need a facilitator in a workshop.
Amazing, amazing. So the main role of a facilitator is to unlock people's best thinking, right? And get them to connect with each other and get them to be contagious with some of the solutions that they come up with. All right, so the next piece I want to talk about is empathy. All right. Now, brand love works a lot with people in financial services, right? Insurance, banking, and typically those people are not necessarily the most comfortable with their emotions. And if we put up empathy, they go, "Well, I'm not so sure about this," right? But if you can learn to change your lenses and look through someone else's eyes at the problem, all right, first look, not solve the problem immediate, but look through someone else's eyes. That can unlock a lot of uh, doors for you. It can really give you access to people's best thinking and it helps you influence them. All right, it also leads to the next piece around creative problem solving. I have worked with many leaders who claim to be fantastic at problem solving and they do solve problems, but sometimes they solve the wrong problem, right? Because you need to spend 95% of your time understanding the problem, making sure that you're solving the right problem, and then 5% of the time solving the problem. So it's really, really important to understand the problem first. And then when I say creative problem solving, you know what? If anyone here is around my age, we've been around the block a couple of times. We've picked up some really bad habits, right? And sometimes we surround ourselves with people that think the same as us. Okay, that's bad. You need to surround yourself with people that think differently to you. And that's why you see I have all these amazing lovies here around me that challenge me all the time, right? Because they challenge me to improve my thinking and to look at it from a different perspective. All right, so we want to not just solve the problem, we want to solve it like really, really creatively. And we want to generate as many possible answers to that problem. And sometimes the amazing thing, if you watch some of Dan Pink's stuff, he says like sometimes someone has half an answer, half an idea, right? Now, Ruthie has many ideas, but sometimes Ruthie might have half an idea and Colette might have the other half of that idea, right? And if we put those two together and we let them make lots of idea babies, okay, we're going to have an unlimited creche of tons of fresh ideas, right? Now, the interesting thing about my team, they generate thousands of ideas. Sometimes the ideas are not implementable immediately. So we put them in a little idea incubator, right? We let them just stay warm there, cuddle, spoon, like the ideas spoon with each other. And then we take them out when they're ready. All right, it's like waiting at the toaster. You need to wait for the toast to jump out. You cannot be impatient and pull the toast out of a toaster. You've tried that, Ashad. I can see you've pulled the toast out of the toaster.
I've done it. It's disappoints every time.
I know, I know. All right. So the fifth skill there is design thinking. Now, who here? Just raise your hand. Hit me up with some kind of an emoji. Might even be the pissed off emoji. Who's had exposure to design thinking? Okay, few people. Few people. Okay, so it sounds very academic, but it's just a recipe. It's like baking muffins, right? You have ingredients to that and you have steps. You put the oven on and out comes the most amazing ideas and solutions to really, really hairy problems. So I want to just talk to you about where you can get these skills from, because you don't need to pay for expensive training. You can pay us for some amazing training, but you don't have to. What's really important, if you want to progress your own career and your team's learning and you want to grow your skills, you got to take out your calendar and book a block in your calendar now for next week. All right. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen. I used to work for a big corporate and we used to have these learning power hours. We would schedule every week, only one learning power hour, and everybody on my team got to bring something that they wanted to teach someone else. By the way, Brand Love, we should do that shit again. Otherwise, we just sound like, hypocrites. All right. So it's really important to book learning in your calendar. I remember I've got a friend in the UK, Catherine, and she books out reading days. I remember the first time I looked at her calendar and I went like, Catherine, what is this reading day? I go like, I can just imagine like you sit on your couch in the sun and you read. She goes, that's exactly what it's for. I go like, I don't have time for reading days. She goes like, so how often do you read? I go, never. She goes like, what is sacrilege? Right. So unfortunately, if it ain't in the calendar, it's not going to happen. So I want you to go and book at least one slot of unadulterated learning for the next week. All right. And then you have many, many tools at your disposal. You have webinars. Unfortunately, there's a ton of shit out there, and some of them just waste your time and try and sell you stuff. All right. So you need to scrutinize them a little bit. But usually, when you find a good one, you want to watch out for some more from that particular brand. Then podcasts. People, I'm a podcast addict. Like, I'm also a little bit of an insomniac. So I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then I listen to podcasts. And there's also a lot of nonsense out there. But the wonderful thing about a podcast, you listen to 3 minutes. If it hasn't gripped you, you go next because there's so much out there. Right. Then audiobooks. I cannot recommend Audible enough. Okay. These amazing, amazing, amazing audiobooks. And if you go and search for customer experience on Audible, you can find incredible stuff. At the moment, I'm listening to a book on culture, and I want to quickly show you. I don't know whether you'll see my screen properly, but I'm a little bit like a mad scientist, right? And this is kind of when I listen to these audiobooks, I make tons of notes, right? And this is what my notes look like. So I lie in my bed, listen to the audiobook, and I make tons of notes because then it goes in my ears. I'm making notes, I'm sketch noting, and I'm remembering everything. And then the next day, I just look at all these notes I've made. So audiobooks are amazing. YouTube, if you go and search on YouTube, you're going to find incredible resources. And then for design thinking, if you go and Google D-School Bootcamp, and you know what, I'm going to save you time because Tess is going to do that for us. Tess, can you Google D-School Bootcamp, I think it's bootlegger something. And we are going to post the link into the chat. You can get D-School is phenomenal. They give lots of their resources away for completely free.
Chantel, do you mind if I jump in for a sec?
Go for it.
We have a question from Luke Harwood, who's asking, what are your best inspirational podcasts?
My best inspirational podcasts. So Brené Brown's got a really great podcast on leadership, right? Luke, I think you might have stumbled upon it. Then I listened to there's a couple of podcasts that I'm absolutely addicted to. One of them is Tara Brach. Now it's a lot more about like personal development. She does amazing meditations. I've got a big problem. My mind is way too busy. So I need to sometimes in my learning, I need to not accelerate. I need to go slower, right? And Tara Brach has amazing meditations. Then I love the Tim Ferriss show because he exposes people to so many things. I love Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. There's just incredible stuff on there. And then there is, if you go and look, amazing one, Art of Charm. And then there's one from, I think you introduced me to this one, Tess. Is it Vince Frost? Design Your Life. Can't remember if you told me about this one. But I would really say go and have a look. No, it was the Honest Designer Show, right, Tess, that you told me about. Honest Designer Show.
That's it.
But go and have a look at the top at some of the top podcasts, and also go and search for design thinking, design, and then you want to look at these skills around empathy. Brené Brown's just released a book called Atlas of the Heart. She's also got it in audiobook format and she reads it herself. And that's going to give you just around empathy, understanding emotions, understanding the light and the dark side of emotions. It's just a phenomenal book. All right, so that's some of the resources. And you know, we find a lot of inspiration when we put together our Brand Love Mastery program that's coming up in May. We took a lot of the building blocks and we take people through really 5 days accelerated training. Luke's been on the training, Arshad's been on the training, Tess came through the program. So it's really the building blocks that you need to step up into your power as a leader. And all of these building blocks will give you the ability to influence your organization, to really transform the organization into an organization that looks through the lens of humans again. You know, we're so quick when I look at most corporates, they upgrade their IT like this, right? We need to go to the next level of the software, otherwise it's not supported. But we've been to organizations where people haven't had training in 10 years, 15 years, and we go, like, when are you going to upgrade your humans, right? You don't mind them not being supported, but your software, that software needs to be supported, right? But your humans, you can leave them unsupported. So my invitation, and I, you know, most of you in this room, you're very resourceful, right? If you never get access to training, then you're going to find a way to learn something, and you want to learn something from the expert, from the person who has the badges, from the person who suffered, who had the pain, and who climbed that mountain. All right, you can see I talk myself totally out of breath here. All right, now, how to get the organization to help and support you. All right, so some of those skills that I spoke about before, I want to just talk about charisma briefly. We are working on a masterclass module on charisma that will probably release later this year. I'm not telling you that to sell to you, but I'm just saying to you, we are fascinated by the skill of charisma, because charisma is a skill, right? Some people are just born with charisma, and some people just like go through life and they just suffer and they have a lot of shit and then they develop charisma, right? And charisma is an interesting skill because it's like just charm. You want to be with someone who has charisma, right? You just want to, they make you feel great about yourself. They tell interesting stories. You want to listen to them. You want to ask them for advice. Charisma is like a really, really fascinating skill, and there's a recipe to it. That's the amazing thing, is there's a recipe. Cool. I don't know whose microphone that was, but there's a recipe to charisma, right? You want to tell stories because people love stories. You want to be open. You want to smile a lot. So charisma is essential when you want to change the organization, right? Now, in my corporate life, I don't think I had a lot of charisma. I had a ton of energy, right? And I spent a long time of my life being angry, and I think that didn't get people to buy into all of the changes. No matter how enthusiastic I was, I don't think I was calm enough and I listened enough to people around me, right? So I would say listening is really important when you want the organization to change. Then I want to give you the perspective of tuning into WIIFM radio station. Okay. Have you listened to WIIFM radio station? That's What's in It for Me radio station. Because if you want people to do shit, you need to think about what's in it for them. Why are they going to help you make the change? Why are they going to help you sell it to other people? Why are they going to tell your story? All right. So you need to think carefully. You smiled earlier when I said people ask, hey, that slide pack was so awesome. Can you send it to me? Because I'd love to share it with my team. You had such interesting perspectives. Okay, what happens when you give someone a beautiful slide pack with interesting stuff to tell others? An ordinary, boring person with ugly slides all of a sudden become an interesting person with beautiful slides. Okay, you see what we're doing? We are actually allowing people to be better. We are allowing people to shine. So, sneaky, but hey, it's going to get your story told, right? And if that person had the ability to build beautiful slides, they would be building. And next time, they will build more beautiful slides. All right, so I want to introduce you to this thing called stakeholder mapping. Now, stakeholder mapping can be very complicated, and we've had stakeholder maps with like 50 different individuals and groups on it, but I want to leave you with a simple formula. So you identify a stakeholder, all right? You want to ask, what am I going to solve for them? What's in it for them? What am I going to solve for them? And then your second question, what do I need from them? What do I need and what am I going to solve for them? So I'm going to like keep it that simple. So I want you for a moment, everybody except the Brand Love team, okay? Think about your boss. Arshad, no,
I'm doing this right now,
Arshad.
actually.
No, Arshad. Everybody else, Brand Love team, you're not allowed to play along, okay? Think about your boss, all right? And he puts on his unicorn thing. Okay, and you want to ask yourself, what am I solving for my boss? And what do I need from them? Yes, you need them to pay you on time. Okay, but aside from that, what are you solving for them? And what do you need from them? And that's going to just shift your perspective, right? And in the stakeholder map, you know, if you put yourself in the middle and all of your stakeholders around you, I want you to also code some of those relationships. Which are the relationships that are really going well? And which are the relationships that are a little bit more challenging? Because you want to focus on the ones that are really going well, nurture them, and then focus on the ones that are challenging, which you might naturally shy away from. And I promise you, if you do a stakeholder map with your boss and some of the key role players in your environment and you ask the question, what am I solving for them? You tune into WIIFM, what's in it for them, and you want to know what you want to list what you need from them, because next time you have a conversation, you're going to be much clearer in that conversation. You're going to be crystal clear. I need X, Y, and Z. You know what? The reason why I need it is I want to solve X, Y, and Z for you. You are ultimately delivering on your boss's KPIs. All right. Now, if you do this, you practice this religiously, I promise that things will get easier and you will start making more of an impact. All right. So you want to give people stories that they can tell and celebrate. You want to make people feel amazing about themselves, right? Most people feel like they're imposters. Most people feel like they're just not getting the job done. Most people feel like the sense of foreboding. It's just a matter of time before someone finds out I'm actually not delivering to the standard that I would like to be delivering, right? Everybody has those thoughts, even me. So you want to give people the ability to feel proud and to celebrate what they've achieved. All right, so I want to just quickly, before I go back, just quickly summarize. So pressure to deliver, you want to do smart prioritization. You look for volume, you look for high emotional things that have amazing stories. Growing your team skills, you've got to block out time. You've got plenty of resources, but you need to block out time. And then gathering your tribe, think about what's in it for them. What do you solve for them and what do you need from them? All right, so that was essentially my story. And did my screen stop sharing now? Right. Okay. Excellent. So let's open for some questions or any perspectives that the Brand Love team wants to add.
Yeah, I want to share